All right, welcome back to the show. We are here back at Cerebrov Station, picking up where we left off after the last uh, tutorial. Well, the first one. Um, we had picked up the adder, and after maybe about an hour of fiddling, and we have a little bit of cash left, and I wanted to get into a bit of combat, just something that's a bit different. And we have 120 grand to work with. So today we're going to talk about Rule 2. Last time, Rule 1 was never fly without a fuel scoop. Again, that fuel scoop was the optional internal that allowed me to skim extra fuel off of stars and basically allow me to jump from system to system to system without having to stop at a station. I had to stop at a couple of stations because I didn't have a fuel scoop in that time lapse. But once I picked up the fuel scoop, I was all good. Today, right, we're going to learn Rule 2. That is, don't fly without rebuy. Rebuy is the insurance cost of your ship, right? So you have to pay 5% of your ship's total value back when your ship is destroyed, right? So I have 122 grand to work with, but my rebuy cost is currently 4,300. Now, as I start adding more internals into my ship's value is going to increase, and therefore my rebuy cost also increases. It still remains that 5%, but as your ships get more and more valuable, that 5% is substantial. In my main account, my current combat Anaconda, which is a massive capital ship, is basically 15 million per rebuy right now. The total value of the ship being somewhere in excess of 350 million. I've spent a ton of money on that ship, and I have a ton of money. So $15 million, not a big deal, but if you spend all of your cash, if you clear your accounts to buy your new ship, and it gets destroyed, you'll either have to go in debt and take a loan, which don't count on those, or you'll have to start back off in the Sidewinder. Both of those really, really, really suck. So, again, to sum this all up, don't fly without rebuy. Okay? Now, bearing that in mind, we're going to dive into the what we're really here to do, and that is outfit for combat and get into it, right? We want to see if we can't throw down with some ships. First thing we're going to want to do, take a look at what kind of hard points we're going to be able to pack. So currently, we've got 2 small pulse lasers, and we have an empty medium hard point. So there's probably people who are, I don't know, maybe a little bit more knowledgeable in how to crank the maximum DPS out of your ship. For me, what I typically like to do is I like to have my heaviest hard points be a Gatling minigun. I'm sorry, a gimbaled minigun. All miniguns are technically Gatling, I think. I don't know that much about guns. So we're going to take a look at the multi-cannons, and you'll see that there's 1, 2, and then there's F, G, E. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the best gimbaled multi-cannon we can afford, right? And gimbaled has this little plus sign under the dot, which indicates your hardpoints class, right? So we're going to spend a lot of our remaining cash on a good minigun. But you know what? It's worth it. So we're going to go ahead and buy that. And you'll see it come right out. Okay? Now, the way damage is done in this game is there's kinetic and there's heat. I think there's also impact, all that kind of other crap. But essentially, there's 2 main forms. There's energy and kinetic. energy is basically like your lasers. Kinetic is anything that would be shot out of a gun. Missiles, bullets, mines, all that stuff. Now, lasers, the energy weapons, are good against shields. Kinetic is good against hulls. So it helps to have a bit of both on your boat. Now you'll see that these pulse lasers are, they have a different symbol next to them. That means that they're fixed. I don't really like fixed lasers. So we're just going to go over to pulse and swap them out for gimbaled pulse lasers. Now here we have a different buying options menu. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to exchange the old burst lasers because the pulse lasers because I'm never going to come back to them. And it saves a little bit of cash on the ticket price. Alright. Pick up the second one. Alright, just like that, you are ready to rock and roll with your weapons. I mean, this loadout right now, we can go out and we can fight some folks. We probably won't do that well, but again, the technique that we're going to use here is essentially kill stealing in your MOBAs that the kids like to play nowadays. So we're going to fly in, and we're basically just going to be vultures. We're going to take the last couple of shots on some enemies so that we, A, don't have to do much of the fighting ourselves and save ammo, and B, we're going to limit our time with a live enemy attacking you, right? So that means that while we're in combat, the enemy is going to have less time to retaliate, which means that we can save on stuff like shields and other elements that you normally wouldn't want to scrimp on if you are going to be dealing the bulk of the damage to an opponent yourself. Alright, so with that said, let's take a look at some of the core internals. I like to do hard points, core internals, utility mounts, optional internals. Okay, so hard points being your weapons, core internals. This is stuff that's going to allow you to either increase the amount of power your ship generates. You're going to be able to change general performance characteristics. Now, your utility mounts are things that they're essentially extra add-ons, right? You can increase your shield health, you can increase your, you can add chaff, you can add heat sinks, which are going to cool your ship off, chaff interrupts, missile lock, and gimbaled lasers and all that stuff. So they can kind of help increase your survivability. Again, we're not going to be too worried about that because we're not dealing the bulk of the damage ourselves. So we'll skip the utility mounts for now. And then optional internals, this is stuff like your cargo rack, your shield generator, if you have a limpet controller, all that kind of good stuff. So what we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at our core internals, and we're going to just, for giggles, we're going to knock the life support down to a D grade. And you'll see that, well, it's actually from E, it's an improvement. But D grade is the lightest option that you can buy, right? And it also, it'll typically reduce your life support time if you have, a lot of times you'll go for like a really big life support system, but you typically don't need 15 minutes. 7 minutes and 30 is plenty. It's way better than 5, and the unit is lighter. It has a slightly higher power draw, but I'm not too terribly worried about it, so we're going to have that degraded. We're not going to really worry about our frame shift drive because we're not jumping from system to system. We're just going to be fighting for now. The power distributor, it's not super duper important. It will allow you to increase your time on target. So if you can afford a nice juicy upgrade here, go for it. But it will drain the rest of our cash. So I'm just going to leave the power distributor as it is right now. There is something else that I would like to get. first, and that is going to be a shield upgrade, right? Our ship is pretty cheap. It's pretty weak, but I also don't want to get I don't want to get smeared across the battlefield, as it were, because when you die, you lose your bounty tickets, right? So you basically have claims to these bounties that we're going to be picking up. And when you die, you lose all of those. So a little bit of survivability goes a long way to increase your revenue here, right? And that's what this is all about. So we're going to take a look at our shield generators, and you'll see that they start to skyrocket really quickly. But we're currently rocking a 3E, which has us at 78 hit points of shield, right? So we're going to take it up to about as far as I'm comfortable going at the moment, which, you know what? We're going to be able to balance all of our stuff with this increased shield. So let's take this 56,000 credit shield. All right. Okay, so don't fly without rebuy. Our balance is lower than our insurance cost. This is a big problem right now. And if I were to go out and if my ship got destroyed, I will not be able to rebuy this ship as it is. So I need to go out and I need to be really careful, or I need to sell units off of my ship or my old ship so that I can clear my insurance cost. So let's take a look at selling some of these optional internals. Okay, we're going to get 1,000 credits there, and we can sell this. We're going to get 3,200 credits. Perfect. Now we can afford to fly. Now that message about the fire units, anytime you change your utility or your hard points, you're going to see that fire group message. And that means that you have weapons or utility mounts that aren't currently mapped to a key. You'll see that our multi-cannon currently has no keybind set to it, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that on 1. I like my lasers on my secondary fire button. Close that down. So that means that when I shoot, if I pull my trigger, my minigun will shoot off, and if I push on the secondary fire button, which is a thumb button on my joystick here, the lasers will go. Alright? Pretty simple. So we now have a really rough and ready basic fighter. Okay? We're going to head off to a resource extraction site. Now I don't believe... Let's take a look at our system map here. So we don't have any ringed planets in this system, or we don't have any asteroid belts, which means that there's no resource extraction. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find a system that has them. I know a close one that works is... Where is it? It's right around... LHS 3447. This is one of my favorite systems to work in if I'm doing this sort of task. You'll see it's a short jump away. And we don't have a fuel scoop, so we're going to be able to jump back and forth without having to worry about our fuel usage. Okay?
Detach is good. Observe queuing system when exiting the station.
Okay, so now that we're underway, there's a couple of things I want to chat about before we get where we want to be. So, some of this has been covered in the combat training and the flight training, But you see that bar graph on the right-hand side of my radar there? That bar graph indicates your throttle position and your current throttle output, right? So as I change my throttle, you'll see that's my throttle position, the flat bar that moves, and the bar graph is, you can consider it your RPM or your current output. If your throttle position is inside this blue section, you turn much quicker, right? So that was without it, or with it being in the center. Can you see the difference already? Drop the throttle, and we start spinning quick. And if we drop it too much, we slow back down again. So it's the same way on either side. So as you're turning, you want to keep yourself in this blue section as much as possible, right? That'll allow you to maneuver behind an opponent much faster. Second of all, when you're at boost, so wait for it, right there, now I can turn as if I were in blue anywhere in the throttle range. This is super, super, super important because maneuvering behind an opponent is going to limit the time they have on target with you, limiting your damage, and it will increase the time on target for you, increasing your damage. So if they can't hit you, but you can hit them, you will win, right? There are certain cases where that doesn't apply. Big-ass ships that have ship-launched fighters, for example. But you don't really have to worry about that at the moment. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about, I'll show you as soon as we land in our target system, which should be happening any second now. Unless the servers shat themselves. Come on. I believe that servers have timed out. I will see you on the other side of this jump. There it is. Okay, and we're back. Almost a month later. That's my bad. Yeah, so I got a bit sidetracked, not gonna lie. And somebody asked when part 2 was coming out, and so I decided, and now that there's demand, I might as well knock it out. So, here we are. Right, so what I was saying before I got interrupted, shall we say. Sorry about that, moving my mic around. Yes, so before I got interrupted, what I was getting to was that we're looking for planets that have resource extraction sites. And the reason I say planets is because, you know, asteroid fields are all well and good, but planets typically usually always have something near them, a station near them that will allow you to resupply your ship, fix your busted stuff, generally just get yourself fixed, ready, and back into the fight. And like I said before, LHS 3447 is one of my favorite systems to do this in because of this planet right here, B3, which has the Lawson orbital right next to it. It's literally just a few light years away, so you jump in and out very quickly. It's really easy to get yourself repaired. So we're just gonna head straight over there, and really, I want this to be kind of brief because at the end of the day, combat itself is very simple. You know, if you've ever played an Ace Combat game, it's reminiscent of that, except for the fact that you know, you have to manage your pips, which we'll talk about in a second. We actually have some time to kill while we try to get there. So we'll talk about the pips right now. So you see in the lower right-hand corner there, we have System Engineering Weapons, SYS, ENG, WEP, and RST. That stands for Reset. So the systems is your shields, engines, weapons. So you can see I'm bouncing pips between each one. Now, you have 6 pips to play with, and you always have 6, unless you have multi-crew, then you get an extra, but we'll talk about that later. So, what's really important, in my opinion, for this kind of combat is maxing out your systems and your weapons, okay? So, all 4 pips to systems, and then 2 pips to weapons. Why nothing in engines? Because we're not really dogfighting here. We're, like I said, we're going to be a vulture. We're going to kind of steal some kills here. We're going to get in at the last second and basically just clean up the mess. So you don't really need to be super maneuverable. You just need to be able to identify somebody who's worth killing and then take them out. So it's kind of handy to have your boost, but you know, it's more important for me to have the weapons ready, because usually you end up doing more reliable damage at low speed, or at low enemy health, because you tend to be right on top of them, okay? Especially if you follow the way that I'm going to do it. So it allows you to really lay into them and knock off that last X% of health. Now, a couple of things to note is your systems. Actually, this applies to everything, really. So you'll notice if your shields get damaged, it's going to start draining the boxes above the systems. If those are at 0, right, that means that your systems cannot recharge anymore. You have drained all of the available power. So you need to add more pips into that segment as possible, so that you start recharging your shields. Same thing with engines. If you use your boost, it depletes a chunk of that engine bar, and so you'll need to add some pips back in order to boost again. Weapons, same deal. You'll drain them as you shoot. No bars left in weapons, less shooting. And again, I prioritize shooting over boosting. So it means I'm a little bit slower, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal to me. And like I said, this is not a perfect combat build. This is something to get you from just tootling around station to station to making more money, because this is a more efficient way of making money early game. So you'll notice I've slowed down to a crawl here, and the reason I want to do that is because once you get within 1,000 light seconds of a object, you can see the other things around it, okay? So we have a resource extraction zone high, which I don't recommend, and there should be other resource extraction sites here. Maybe they'll come in as we get closer. But at the end of the day, you're looking for resource extraction sites. Now, you'd think that these are specifically for miners. Well, they kind of are, but they really aren't. It's where you'll find a lot of NPCs mining the rings of this planet, trying to make a little bit of NPC money in the background simulation, the BGS, which maybe we'll talk about later. I don't fully understand it myself. It's more or less just a way of explaining how how the game manages to have such a not necessarily a live feeling, but have events happen randomly throughout the galaxy. But yeah, so the NPCs there are a part of that simulation. So I'm not seeing a low site here, so we're going to dive into a high. This is a risky maneuver. I'm taking a calculated risk doing this. Eventually, you'll be capable of taking on a high system, or rather a high site. I think we can handle it, though, again, because we're not here to deal the bulk of the damage, remember. We're here to... it's basically kill stealing. basically we get a participation trophy. There it is. Perfect. So let's move our pips around. I'm going to leave a little bit in engines so that we can move around initially. And you'll see that there's some people floating around here. We've got a big-ass anaconda over there, which is the system authority vessel. Let's see what other targets we have. Let's see if we can't catch up with them. Viper Mark III. Dave Kelly competent. Wanted, and he's in a wing. Okay, that's typically a good start. Now we have Diamondback, Explorer, Spectre, Miro, Master, Wanted, in a wing. So, what does a wing mean? It means those two guys are working together. If I open fire on one, the other guy's going to open fire on me, right? So this is not a situation that we want to engage ourselves in, unless there's a ton of system authority vessels. Believe me when I say that there are going to be plenty of opportunities, so it's a-okay to just let some people go. Like this one here, we have some system authority vessels. They're going to be in a wing of 3. You can tell because they're generally flying around each other, kind of nice. And you're basically, literally, just going to be doing this. You're flying around, and you're scanning guys while following the system authority vessels. And eventually, you'll see some people start shooting at each other. Now you'll notice I do not have my hard points deployed. Alright, now it's happening. That's what I wanted to hear. So we just need to identify who's shooting at who and where. I'm going to come to a full stop here. Alright, so Miro is down. We missed him. But this guy's getting shot at. Perfect. He's alone, no wing members, and he's wanted and taking fire from someone else. Now I have my weapons deployed, but I'm not going to shoot at him. Again, the key here is to just stay within range. So we're going to bounce the pips around to stay within range and make sure that the very second he's getting close to being dead, we empty, all of our weapons into him, finish him off, and get the bounty for it. And again, this is more an exercise in patience and executing on the proper opportunities, right? Because I could dive in and start shooting at this guy, and chances are I will probably do okay. Why? He's alone, he's under fire from 2 other ships, and he's got no shields now. But I don't want him to turn around and immediately dump a bunch of ammo into me and rip me to shreds. Alright, now he's in position. 30%, we need to get behind him. Oh, we missed him. That is my fault. Oh well, once again, plenty of opportunities will come up. Like I said, an exercise in patience. Follow these laser trails around too. They're a very good indicator of somebody getting shot at. Alright, this guy's alone, so we're going to just follow him until he comes under fire. Let's switch to this guy. This guy's going to go down very fast because he's under fire from everyone, so we're just going to dive in. Even if he decides to prioritize us, there is so much just damage coming his way that there's no way he could do enough to hurt us. And just like that, we participated in that bounty, and we have 80 grand sitting in the bank ready to be claimed. And that's more or less what's going to happen here, is we're just going to fly around, identify possible targets, and be patient and wait for the law to come and take them out. See here, we have somebody else under fire. Again, he's alone. This was the guy that we were looking at earlier. So we'll fly within range. Get our lasers out and start participating in this bounty. Now we've done a little bit of damage to him, so by all rights he has the he's well within his rights to turn around and fight back. But when you have an anaconda shooting at you, typically the NPCs are going to prioritize that. Although sometimes you do get unlucky and have them turn around and decide that you're more valuable to them than staying alive, so sometimes they'd rather just take you down. Alright, we got another one. This is a Fertilance. This is a big ship, so he'll have a higher bounty, but he's going to be more dangerous. This is a definitely an opportunity to sit and wait and participate. Because this guy can turn around and just blow us to bits. But as long as we don't shoot at him, he's got no reason to jump us. Keep running ourselves in range. Now we fire because he's getting low. And wait for it. 173 grand. Alright? It's literally that simple. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave the system because you'll see we have a big pile of credits. And if we die, we will lose these transactions, these bounty claims. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the Lawson Orbital. Again, this is really close by. And part of the reason why I like this system so much. We're going to get out of mass lock and just fly over there, hand in our bounties, and then we'll rinse, lather, repeat until you want to be done, right? There is essentially no penalty to this. These guys are not going to run out. You're not going to run out of people to... you're not going to run out of bounties, right? You're going to suddenly not find that this resource extraction site is gone. And there aren't NPCs there. What you might see is that an instance gets depleted, like people stop spawning in. Usually that doesn't happen, but occasionally it can. So, in that case, you just jump out and jump back in and re-instance yourself. My suggestion is follow, the kitting out part of this guide, and then once you're done doing one or two runs like this, handing in some bounties, go ahead and pump a little bit more cash into your ship. There's no reason you need to leave it right away. You can definitely save up for a very nice ship doing this. Something like the Cobra Mark III, the Vipers, the Viper 3 specifically, not the Viper 4. Or something like a larger ship. I would suggest spending, a good pile of time doing this until you've accrued, call it $5 or $6 million bucks, and then you can either A rank the ship that you're currently flying, buy a new ship, and get close to A ranking it. There's a ton of options. Then once you have money, you really kind of unlock the potential of both your ships and really the universe itself. So, that said, we're going to dock up, earn our cash. Don't forget to refuel and restock. That's always something that I kind of goof on, is it's really easy for me to just forget what I've done. So you're going to go to your authority contact. This is where you're going to pay your fines, and if you have dividends and so forth, you can collect them here. This is where you turn in your bounty vouchers. And you'll see we went from 13 grand to 288. So we'll call it 5 minutes. I missed that first guy, but it is just that simple. If I were to highlight a possible next step in terms of this ship, I would probably swap to a higher power distributor, a better power plant, and better thrusters. Those three things combined are going to make you faster, shoot longer, and be able to, when we're deployed, we're really right up against that maximum power draw line. So we'll be able to add more utility mounts and so forth. These guys don't have any stock of mounts and so forth, but I would add stuff like chaff, heat sink launchers. Actually, we only have 2 mounting slots here, so chaff and heat sinks. The chaff will cause lasers and missiles to not be able to target you. Heat sink allows you to cool your ship down if you're using something like a rail gun, which generates a lot of heat. It's handy to just dump a heat sink and get away. Again, those core internals that I was looking at, better power plant, basically the best that you can afford, or the best that you want to put in based on your current power usage. The more important one is going to be your power distributor, because you'll see how much of a difference it makes. Basically everything goes blue when we go from E to C, and you'll see it increases recharge rates by 16%, weapons capacity by 25%, recharge by 28%. It's basically just a straight upgrade. But yeah, that's more or less the quick and dirty guide to combat. When we get more into it, when we get a bigger ship, for example, I will go into my preferred combat build. It's not what people are going to say is, I guess, min-maxed, quote-unquote. But the reason why I like it is because it's flawed, and flawed builds mean that you have to actually put in a little bit of effort. It's not you're not just going to push an I win button. I like the idea of having to actually fight. So I don't typically like to trivialize content for myself too much. So I think what I want to do for the next episode is I want to buy a I think I'm going to buy a Type 6. I'm going to grind up. I'll buy a Type 6, and then we're going to talk about core hunting, which is a type of mining that is extremely, extremely lucrative. I would go so far as to say that it is the best, most reliable way of making millions and millions and millions of credits quickly. And the reason I'm doing it so early on is because I want you guys to be able to get out there and get into a good ship, a ship that you can really have fun with. Because I personally don't consider the game to have started, quote unquote, until you're in the ship that you want, right? I think when you're in the ship that you want, you can really boost it up properly. It's much more enjoyable. So we're going to talk about core hunting, and I'll probably end up mining I'll do this for a while. Probably get $5 or $6 million. Create a rudimentary mining build, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. Hopefully by episode 4, we'll be in an anaconda, which when I started out, it would have taken me somewhere between 4 and 8 years or something like that to get an anaconda. So hopefully we can really jumpstart that for you guys. So hang tight for the next one. Now that people, I guess, are looking for it, I'll be a little bit quicker about turning it around. Admittedly, there were server issues, but I don't want to make excuses for myself. I really just didn't do it. So I'll do my best to turn around an episode a little bit faster. Again, it's a little easier knowing that people are looking for it. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions about this particular money-making scheme, or if you're having issues, or if you find it helpful, do feel free and let me know. And check back in the next one. I think it'll be in another ship. So I'll catch y'all later.